The General Dynamics, now Lockheed Martin, F-16 Fighting Falcon was a product of Cold War development and introduced along the lines of agility, lightweight classification and controlled costs, a multi-role fighter to serve alongside the air superiority-minded McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. First flying on January 20, 1974, the F-16 was formally introduced on August 17, 1978 and has since seen production reach over 4,500 units with sales to over 25 foreign parties. Modernization programs have helped to evolve the F-16 in reaching all new capabilities over the modern battlefield, allowing the system to retain a viable presence in the exceedingly computer-controlled airspaces of today. Its multi-role nature allows the standard aircraft design to undertake a variety of roles as required, and customizability allows each operator to field local weaponry, systems and equipment as needed. Despite its given name of Fighting Falcon, the F-16 is also recognized under the nickname of Viper. As it stands by today's classification conventions, the F-16 is deemed a fourth-generation fighter now that the Lockheed F-22 Raptor has officially ushered in the era of the fifth-generation fighter. However, the costs associated with fifth-generation types ensure that many fourth-generation models will continue flying into the 2030s. The F-16 in U.S. service, and perhaps elsewhere, is expected to be replaced by the highly touted Lockheed F-35 Lightning II stealth-minded strike fighter. However, mounting delays and cost overruns in the program have extended the useful service lives of existing fourth-generation fighters like the F-16S for the near future, prompting various modernization programs to be enacted and keep the aircraft flying for years to come. Additionally, the procurement costs associated with new technology will keep the F-16 a mainstay of foreign air powers for the foreseeable decade and perhaps beyond. The F-16 was born from the USAF's Lightweight Fighter, LWF, program emerging in the early 1970s. The program intended to validate the prospect of a light, single-engine, single-seat fighter form against the norm of heavier, twin-engined designs which proved the call of the day. The field originally included submissions from Boeing, General Dynamics, Lockheed, LTV and Northrop, but this was eventually whittled down to the two major players in General Dynamics and Northrop. General Dynamics put forth their YF-16 against Northrop's YF-17, and two prototypes each were allowed under the competition. The YF-16 went airborne for the first time on January 20, 1974 and differentiated from the Northrop design by its single-engine approach. The YF-17 utilized two in a side-by-side arrangement. After a year of evaluations, the USAF formally selected the YF-16 as its LWF winner, and production mounts took on the finalized F-16 designation, earning itself the nickname of Fighting Falcon. The YF-17 eventually evolved to be selected as the U.S. Navy's F-A-18 Hornet in another subsequent program. After the USAF arranged for production to begin in 1975, the aircraft was also taken on by European parties aligned with American interests. This included the likes of Belgium, Denmark, Netherlands and Norway, who agreed on localized production of the type. The first production-quality F-16 went airborne for the first time in 1978, marking the start of a now storied aviation career. At the time of its inception, the F-16 became the first production-quality military fighter to feature fly-by-wire, FBW, controlling. This was coupled to a relaxed airframe design to allow for maximum effort from the onboard digital processing scheme and improved responsiveness considerably. Externally, the F-16 became a well-contoured, streamlined aircraft with extensive blending used in the wings and fuselage. The pilot sat in a cockpit that was well forward in the fuselage length, given a very commanding view of the surrounding area through a large, unobstructed canopy. The cockpit included a HOTAS, hands-on throttle and stick, configuration, side stick controller, for piloting efficiency, as well as a noticeably reclined, 30 degrees, ejection seat. The nose cone housed the radar system, which was coupled to in-flight systems and the weapon stores. The main wing appendages were swept along their leading edges, and each wingtip supported an AIM-9 Sidewinder short-range air-to-air missile. The empennage consisted of a single vertical tail fin and a pair of horizontal planes. Ventral strakes were noted under the tail unit. The engine was buried deep within the fuselage and aspirated through an oblong air intake found under the cockpit and exhausted through a single ring at the base of the tail rudder. Each main wing supported multiple ordnance hardpoints, with the inboardmost plumbed for fuel stores. There also proved a centerline hardpoint, also plumbed, which helped to grant the aircraft considerably increased operating ranges. The undercarriage rather narrow track in its arrangement and all centralized around the belly. The undercarriage consisted of 3 single-wheeled legs with 2 main legs under center mass and a nose leg just aft and under the cockpit. Armament-wise, the F-16 was granted a 20mm M61 Vulcan 6-barreled Gatling-type internal cannon for close-in work. Beyond its typical wingtip missile armament, the aircraft eventually supported medium-range air-to-air missiles, air-to-surface missiles, precision-guided munitions and conventional drop ordnance, cluster bombs, general-purpose bombs, runway denial weapons, etc. All told, the F-16 has evolved to become a proven, multifaceted war machine which enables it to undertake a plethora of mission types, from interception to patrol and general strike to anti-radar. Foreign buyers have also added localized ordnance options to the existing F-16 armament suite for a more customized approach to war. Beyond the given armament options, the F-16 also supports mission-specific equipment such as electronic countermeasures, ECM, pods, targeting pods, sensor pods and chaff, flare dispenser pods. The original radar was the Westinghouse, Northrop Grumman, APG-66 series. The F-16 has matured along many variant lines since its adoption. The original single-seat multi-role model was the F-16A, and these were joined by 2-seat F-16B models which added a second cockpit. In 1984, improved forms emerged as the F-16C and F-16D, single and twin-seat models respectively. These brought about improved avionics and radar functionality as well as all-weather capability and ground strike qualities. In supporting the newer AIM-120 AMRAAM medium-range air-to-air missile, the aircraft was granted a Beyond Visual Range, BVR, engagement, kill capability. The tail fin was extended slightly forward and a new wide-angled HUD was introduced. Production of F-16s has spanned across several notable blocks, each containing changes all their own. CD models also made up the F-16N to F-16N mounts used in U.S. Navy aggressor training. The popular F-16C Block 50-inch model is powered by a single General Electric F-110G100 series afterburning turbofan engine outputting 17,150 pounds of dry thrust and 28,600 pounds of thrust with reheat applied. The aircraft is capable of reaching speeds of 915 miles per hour, sea level, Mach 1.2. and can see speeds top Mach 2 in at altitude. Ferry range is 2,600 miles with fuel drop tanks supplied, while a combat radius under relatively heavy bomber load is equal to about 350 miles. The airframe can reach a service ceiling of 50,000 feet with a 50,000 feet per minute rate of climb, these qualities making it a sound, quick-responding interceptor. The F-16E and F models, single and twin-seat versions respectively, are more offerings and feature the more powerful F-110-100 and 32 series afterburning engine. They are also outfitted with AN/APG-80 ASA, active electronically scanned array, radar and all modern avionics. This particular model series formed the basis of the F-16 Super Viper, intended for India's MLCA, Medium Multi-Role Combat Aircraft, program but eventually dropped from contention. The similar F-16I designation marks a twin-seat development in use by the Israeli Air Force. The F-16 has served across many air powers beyond the US since its arrival. Procurement and, in some cases local production, were granted to allies in Belgium, Egypt, Greece, Indonesia, Israel, Norway, Pakistan, Poland, Taiwan, Singapore, Thailand and Turkey, among others. The re-emerging Iraqi Air Force has relatively recently committed to the purchase of F-16 Fighting Falcons for its revitalized inventory, announced September 2010. These aircraft will carry the designation of F-16I. The Japanese Air Force relies on a heavily modified, dimensionally larger and locally produced version of the F-16 as the Mitsubishi F-2. South Korean F-16s are recognized as KF-16 and are produced locally by Korean Aerospace Industries, KAI. Italy operated as many as 30 leased, ex-USAF, F-16s between 2001 and 2012 but have since given up the type. Nevertheless, the F-16 certainly remains a potent and popular multi-role performer. The F-16 happened to appear at a time when its combat services could be put to use rather immediately. The type stocked the U.S. military at various levels and service branches, and was also selected to headline the Thunderbird's aerial acrobat group. The first, high-level combat service F-16s occurred during Operation Desert Storm in 1991 where its multi-role capabilities were put to good use in defeating the Iraqi air defense network. Following the war, the F-16 stayed on station in enforcing the no-fly zones over northern and southern Iraq. F-16s also participated with European air forces in joint operations over the Balkans during instability and civil warring in the region. Despite their several decades of service, F-16s remain a primary component of U.S. air operations and should remain so for the near future. The F-16 has also served well under combat conditions with Israel. Israeli F-16s proved particularly useful in its 1982 Lebanon war against Syrian fighters and remain in constant readiness for today's volatile Middle East region. Israeli F-16I Block 52 models feature conformal fuel tanks, CFDs, advanced TCMs and a two-seat cockpit arrangement. The F-16 design is certainly not without faults and several notable accidents and incidents have occurred to the line, some resulting in death, over the decades dating back to a Fort Worth, Texas incident on May 8, 1975. The latest incident was the loss of a USAF aircraft and pilot on January 28, 2013 over the Adriatic Sea near the Italian coast. As a single-engine design, much faith is placed on reliability of the F-16 system to bring its pilot home safely. Twin-engined aircraft can rely on the power of a single installation in the event of failure to one unit. However, both expenses and complexity are amped up in a twin-engined design. The F-16XL existed as a technological offshoot of the base F-16 fighter line. The primary modification became its cranked arrow delta wing design which allowed for better lift, control, range and ordnance carrying. Its primary purpose was initially to serve as a test platform for high-speed research, though it did end up competing, unsuccessfully, against a modified two-seat McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle to replace the outgoing General Dynamics F-111 Aardvark interdictor strike fighter. This emerged as the F-15E Strike Eagle. Only two prototype F-16 XLS were ever completed and both went on to serve NASA in the decades up to 2009. The Vought Model 1600 was a Vought, General Dynamics attempt to promote a novelized variant of the F-16 to the United States Navy. The proposed produce never matured, with the F-A-18 Hornet being selected in its place. Interestingly, The FA-18 held roots in the YF-17, which competed, unsuccessfully, against the YF-16. Despite its excellence in service, the F-16 is a design built upon 1970s technology, and operators have already, and will eventually, move on from the design to a more modern offering. Euro players like Belgium are entertaining F-16 replacements and may lean in the direction of the Lockheed F-35 Lightning II 5th generation aircraft. Other contenders include the Boeing Super Hornet, Dassault Rafale, Eurofighter Typhoon, and Saab Gripen. Belgian F-16s are expected to serve into the early 2020s before replaced fully by 2029.